Let's say you go to a shop or store to purchase anything. A, would you rather the plastic bag be sold to you, or would you, B, prefer it to be free, which will bring about unnecessary usage? And another question, do you dispose your refuse responsibly? Hello everyone, welcome to Profound Perspective, where we discuss everyday life issues that affect us and prefer different perspectives of possible solutions by looking at the bigger picture and working towards the greater good. My name is Hauwa Kiyawa. Let's get right into it. Today's guest is Safiyya Sanusi, who's an engineer and business development specialist working in the energy sector. She's passionate about the water-energy nexus and sustainability, focusing on innovative solutions that enhance resource efficiency and environmental responsibility. You're highly welcome. Thank you for having me. So today's topic is environmental responsibility and the improper waste management and its impact on the environment. Here in Nigeria, I would always say that we don't have any provision for recycling as other countries do. And with the rate that most especially plastic is being used in this country without any care, how do you think it would impact the environment?
So first things first, we don't even have the right policies. Because if we did have the right policies in place, like we wouldn't be talking about this. I think plastic wouldn't be such a menace to our environment. We wouldn't have to talk about it every single time. So I always try to give a case study. So look at Rwanda, for example. Rwanda wanted to get rid of, the plastic pollution in their environment. And because, they have the gorillas, and then they have some certain animal species that are going extinct that they need to protect. So those are all part of the environmental thing, whereby they're what, we need to ban the things that are harming these species that we're trying to protect, right? So they had policies in place. Apart from policies, they're also enforcing those policies. So, but maybe people might say, oh, Rwanda is such a tiny country, they don't have the population that Nigeria has. But for me, I feel it's just an excuse for us not to, be bigger than what it is. Because if we set our mind to it, because Nigerians, we're very resilient. If we want to do something, we actually get it done. Sure. So it has nothing to do with policies and whatnot. So yeah, it's good to have policies in place, and then it's also good to hold our lawmakers accountable, so that they're taking these things seriously. Okay, so many years the UN and other organizations, you have World Plastic Day in the UN, where you talk about, okay, how can we get rid of plastic? So
awareness.
How can we create awareness? Basically, okay, you create that awareness, but then nothing tangible comes out of it. And I will also go to the part of apart from policy, also education. How can we add environmental education in our secondary school, primary school, university? Because why should I have to learn about plastic pollution, how it harms the environment? Why do I have to learn it in university?
Because we don't know the ramification of and the impact of improper refuse disposal or the use of plastic.
Exactly.
That is why it's so insistent in the society. Yeah.
It's like in Kano, you go to Sabangali, everywhere you go, it's litter, plastic everywhere. Everyone has a nonchalant attitude to it because they're not aware of the dangers of the plastic use, or they don't even know how to dispose it. Or it could be that the government does not have proper waste management company that will come and dispose these waste. Or even if they do have waste management, for example, in Abuja is a city, there's usually a landfill where that plastic is being dumped. And then plastic takes forever to disintegrate. So what are we doing to actually to recycle this plastic? Because there's no law in place. I heard that, sometime last year or 2023, Lagos State was able to ban single-use plastic. But doesn't mean that people have to stop to use it. It depends on enforcement.
Exactly.
So it's one thing for you to say that, like, we're going to put policies in place, but are you enforcing those policies? And are you educating people? Are you creating a
That is important. And one thing I would say, as you said, education in layman's terms, as a professional, how would you explain the impact of plastic use and its degradation, because it doesn't degrade as quickly as any other material.
Yeah.
So how can you explain the impact to the environment to a layman for them to understand?
So say for
severity.
Yeah. So say for example, a bottle of water. You take your bottle of water, you use it, and then you dispose it, right? That bottle of water is going to take you more than 1,000 years for it to disintegrate. It's just going to keep littering and whatnot. And then think about it, if it's in a soil, okay, what if, like, there's a farmer there and then the farmer wants to farm? Literally, you're farming under plastic. Indirectly, you're eating plastic. So that's like, how, okay, think about it, marine life, right? Why there's so much, like, plastic waste in the ocean or in the rivers or, in one water system or whatnot. Okay, you put that in the fish or, whatever aquatic animal you want to take.
Consumes
it. And then you take out that fish, you bring it. So it's like when you think about, like, the whole supply chain, actually indirectly, like, also feeding off that plastic, and plastic causes cancer.
Yes.
So
it has, harsh chemicals.
It has harsh chemicals in it because, the companies that are producing these plastics, they don't care. For them, it's all about making profits. So, we live in a very greedy world where everybody just wants to make, like, their bottom line look great and all of that.
So first off, the plastic that's being thrown away, it could embed itself into the soil and emit those chemicals as well.
Absolutely.
In turn, you ingest that as well, and it becomes detrimental to you.
Yeah.
And secondly, when maybe thrown in the ocean as well, they would emit those chemicals. The fish would eat it, you would eat the fish, and it might cause cancer to you. So it's a cycle.
Yeah.
Right. So what would you tell people, first off, before we go to the responsible authority making things happen, what would you tell the people to do in taking responsibility, be the change that they need to see in the world, in understanding that they have to put their foot forward before, anything could happen, for them to help themselves as well, environmentally and health-wise?
So personally, I always start with education because you can't go wrong with education. The first step is, are people even aware of the dangers? And most likely not. Like, people don't know. It's like, oh, it's plastic, it can do no harm. So, the first step is getting people educated, getting people aware of, like, the dangers of, using plastic or not disposing it in the right way. Then, like, you tell people. So when people are aware, you have to teach them as well how to dispose it properly. Okay, are they recycling? We don't have a lot of recycling plants in Nigeria. I think, I know in the north, I only know of like 2, which is like too little. I feel like, we should have more recycling companies that are taking. And
I feel like most of the recycling companies are privately owned recycling companies.
Yeah.
Because if I could remember, the countries whereby you would take the plastic to supermarkets, just like you go to buy anything at a supermarket, you take your plastic bottles, there's a machine, you insert those bottles, even in Germany. Yeah. So how are we going to incentivize people taking responsibility and involving themselves in recycling as well? Maybe we could do it as other countries do.
I know there was a time, like there was an NGO, an organization in Kano State where they were trying to fight off, like, this plastic waste. So what they did was they collaborated with a few plants that would take, like, plastic. I can't remember the name of the recycling company in Kano. But basically what they do is just to also, like, create job for opportunities for young people just, walking around the streets and stuff. So what they did was, I think if you bring basically like one sack of, plant bottles, for example, they would give you, I think, about 5,000, or is it between 1,000 to 5,000. So I mean, if companies like that were to come up, or if, say, the government was to realize that, oh, you know what, we can actually, help these companies as well. So, I mean, in order to get rid of, plastic, all stakeholders have to be involved. The government, the NGOs, the companies that have, even the plastic, producing companies, the recycling companies, everybody has to come into place. And I think another thing that, the government can possibly do is, if, they tell the people that are creating the plastic responsibly, hold them accountable and tell them, okay, you know what, we need to create a circular economy.
Exactly.
Whereby what you produce is what, you're injecting out. So that's another way to hold them accountable. I mean, if you were to, if you were to create, that sort of incentive system, that system, then you would have to bring everybody. Everybody.
So I feel with that, with creating that, aside from cleaning up, the environment, it would create jobs as well.
Yeah.
As you said, employing the others to, gather all the plastic, helping in recycling, and then being compensated as well.
Exactly.
Will help in doing that.
Absolutely.
So even though it was short and sweet, we've come to the end of today's episode. But before we go, always, we would want a little nugget of wisdom to the viewers.
Okay. To wisdom, I would say education. Educate yourself. You don't have to have a degree or in environmental engineering or whatever to be passionate about these things. We live in a world where there's AI. Literally ask AI anything and AI will answer that in Russian for you. So I just feel, with education and with you being aware, self-awareness, it's okay, you're able to tell yourself, okay, you know what, I can do it properly. So you don't need the government, or you don't need somebody telling you, oh, dispose your waste properly. You should do it for yourself, even for the betterment of your health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do it for yourself. Be the change.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the change to come meet you. Be the change. And as always, this is the end of today's episode of Profound Perspective. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you can always get a notification on what Profound Perspective is about. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.